Hello guys and gals, me Mudahar, and Nvidia did the bare minimum, ladies and gentlemen. Now this video is a little old, it should have been out 2 weeks ago, but frankly I wanted to give a little bit more time to research and really look and do this video in my own special way, okay? Now ladies and gentlemen, if you don't know, I'm a Linux user, okay? I'm sorry, I have to say it for the 7 millionth time, I love Linux, okay? You see that right here? That's a Linux system. In fact, just to show you how Linuxy I am, I got Arch Linux running, ladies and gentlemen. Everyone who uses Arch surprisingly has to say this, otherwise you're not really an Arch Linux user. Point is, I'm a Linux person, okay? And I think there's a very few amount of us that are currently on YouTube who do Linux stuff, all right? I think I'm one of them. I like to look at Wendell from Level 1 Techs and Linux Gamer, okay? I really hope there's more Linux people out there, and if I didn't mention your name there, I apologize. But Linux to me is something I support because I'm one of those free and open source type of fellows, okay? I do not like having Windows run natively on my system. You want to know why? Because I don't trust Windows, okay? I don't trust an operating system that likes to pimp out Candy Crush Saga every time I install it on my grandma's computer. It just doesn't make any sense. Even when I pay for the thing, I don't want to see Candy Crush or Roblox or anything in between. Now, ladies and gentlemen, as being a Linux user, I am pretty much the bottom bargain bin of every big company out there, okay? I play the least amount of PC games natively because guess what? Not everyone supports Linux out of the box, but there are great companies like Valve who have Proton technologies that allow me to play Windows games on Linux. Games like Death Stranding, games like Yakuza. Heck, there's plenty of indie developers out there that like to make their games for Linux, like Factorio. It's a beautiful world. But I know that I'm at the bottom order of the pecking order. You understand there? Now, when I'm gaming on a computer, one of the most important things is which graphic card do I get? Do I go with AMD's Team Red because I'm a Linux user? The answer to that is a no, because while AMD is nice and they're free and they're open sourcey and they make some pretty good quality graphic cards, good old Nvidia goes out of their way to make pretty good GPUs as well. In fact, so much so that they absolutely outclass, in my opinion. Now, there is nothing from AMD that matches up to my RTX 3090, okay? Probably never will be until AMD comes out 2 years later with a GPU. Now, even that being said, in raw power, Nvidia still comes out with great software like DLSS, so I can play games at lower resolutions, still looking sharp, with better frame rates. It has the superior ray tracing technology. Listen, I don't want to simp for Nvidia. I think we all know that I'm a bit of an Nvidia fanboy, but Nvidia is bad for Linux, okay? Because Nvidia likes to be very closed source. They like to keep everything proprietary, okay? Nvidia is not friendly. Linux's daddy outright once said, fuck Nvidia, okay? And you know what? To an extent, I agree. Fuck Nvidia, okay? They're not exactly the greatest people in the system. Now, why are we talking about this? Well, because Nvidia, believe it or not, finally decided to not hound us virtual machine users. Now, being a Linux user myself, I use virtual machines a lot to emulate Mac OS, to emulate Microsoft Windows 10, because you can't do everything underneath Linux. I emulate Windows 10 for a multitude of reasons. Number one being security, okay? Since I don't trust Windows 10, and I don't trust a lot of software that you can download on Windows 10, I put it through a virtual machine so that it doesn't infect my main system. Listen, I like using my computer, okay? I do a lot of personal stuff on my computer, like banking, sharing private photos around with family members and friends, and I don't like having operating systems that I pay for to look around all over my computer. I like to keep control of the $1,000, $2,000 system that I've built. It's my system, I control it. So when it comes to virtual machines, that's one of the primary reasons I use it. Now, for using virtual machines, I also game underneath them. Playing games like Rainbow Six Siege, playing games like Halo, playing multiplayer games, or really the new hottest release pretty much requires that I use a Windows virtual machine so that I can actually play a game, to its utmost compatibility. To do that, I have to pass through a graphic card, and in this case, I pass through my NVIDIA GeForce RTX 3090. The problem up until this point, in 2 weeks ago, is that NVIDIA outright used to block out people from using virtual machines. Now, the reason why I say in the title NVIDIA did the bare minimum is that NVIDIA finally has decided to allow virtual machine users to use their graphic cards underneath KVM or VM systems. Now, understand, this is a big deal. NVIDIA decided to finally allow us to do this, okay? They're not going out of their way to stop us anymore. To understand how weak of this, how low effort this basically is, I'm going to show you something real quick. So basically, in order to run a literal NVIDIA GPU, this is what you had to have added into the system, okay? You had to add vendor ID state on, value sandy cheeks, KVM hidden state on. You had to add these lines so that NVIDIA graphic cards could actually install and run. Before this, you would get an error called code 43. Basically, NVIDIA would lock you out, and in a way, they were kind of telling you to buy the $20,000 Tesla Quadro cards out there that are designed for big companies. Well, NVIDIA, I'm not spending 20 racks. I'm not spending tens of thousands of dollars on your graphic cards, okay? You can go fuck yourself. Okay, I want to use it. So we implemented those two lines and NVIDIA didn't give a shit. Now, the reason why I say it's a bare minimum is at any moment, NVIDIA could have dug even deeper and really blocked us out, but they didn't. At the end of the day, they didn't care. The user base was so tiny doing what I do, virtual machine gaming, that ultimately going out of your way to stop them is probably just going to give you more bad press than you could ever hope for. So NVIDIA took away the block, and I'm here. Now, Linus Tech Tips covered this, and he showed my video in it too, specifically when he was talking about anti-cheat, which, thank you, Daddy, you noticed me. If anything, I'm just glad that Anthony must have seen it during editing, because he's my favorite lad at Linus Tech Tips, and I love that man. Now, when I look at that entire situation, Linus had a good point, okay? NVIDIA finally did something, maybe a little later than they should have, 7 fucking years, but they finally managed to do something right. Now, at the end of the day, to jack NVIDIA off on such a basic thing would be a joke, and it wouldn't even be worth a video. That is, until I found one of these. Now, this is a GitHub that's all about VGPU unlock. So to understand what we're looking at here, this is something cool. Now the goalpost is shifted, okay? Now it's gone. Now, this is what we need to get NVIDIA to do, and it probably won't happen, but it's a cool thing to talk about. So if you don't know what a VGPU is, basically the idea is we are going to take one graphic card and we're going to slice it up, like divvy it like this, turn it into 4 virtual graphic cards. So we can run 4 virtual machines and use them all to game like we normally could. See, I think we've reached a point where computer hardware is so fast on the enthusiast end, these high-end Ryzen processors with tons of threads, these graphic cards like the RTX 3090 that are running games in like 4K, upscaling them to 8K, some crazy figures. There is so much computer power right now that we can run multiple instances of a game. You remember that Linus video where they had like 7 gamers, 1 computer? It is very possible for most high-end gaming computers, if this technology gets implemented, to at least have 2 gamers on 1 system. Could you imagine having a gaming system and a streaming system on the same box, not interfering with one another, but utilizing them to create a dual PC streaming setup on the same system? It's one of those things that I want to cover as time goes on. Now, if we look into VGPU, the idea again is divvying up a graphic card to create multiple GPUs. Now, what's interesting is they found out this GitHub, and I'm surprised NVIDIA hasn't DMCA took this down, but basically they've unlocked VGPU functionality for consumer-grade NVIDIA GPUs. So they've got an entire installation system and everything. And I haven't done it because I'm going to show you why I haven't done it. It's a whole separate video. So basically, one look at the code is that they're basically looking for similar graphic cards because this technology, VGPU by the way, is exclusive right now if you buy the data center, the high-end business level cards. So what's going on basically is NVIDIA is allowing this functionality to people that are in big companies. But if you look into this code, you can see that they're actually taking equivalent graphic cards from these generations. Like for instance, Ampere, right? Which would be the RTX 3090 generation if I'm not mistaken. See, it's not that the cards have anything of an issue, right? The cards can support this technology. It's just NVIDIA locking us out arbitrarily from even doing it when the technology is present. Now, the reason why we haven't done it is this is an incredibly complicated procedure that I'm willing to go through. Now, this is an entire wiki that's being created on the fly right now that's all about taking this from initial compile all the way to the full end, okay? So the idea here is that they're going to basically spoof this driver that is used to support VGPUs and allow us to install it on a 3090. Now, the logic here is we can hopefully split up a 3090 into 2 or 3 graphic cards, so you can run games in just a small window using the full power of your graphic card. So, of course, as you can see, it's a pretty long video, okay? We have to go through guest virtual machines, BIOSes, downloading the unlock, okay? Learning how to use GitHub, and then installing the VGPU drivers. There's even a point where I have to set up a licensing server, which means I have to pay like, I think $200 or $50 a year to even support 1 or 2 VMs, like per VM. So it's going to be a minute before I even get to this. But rest assured, Muda is working on this, okay? If I have to buy a $20,000 Tesla to make a video for you guys about a virtual machine, I frankly will. I don't even think they're 20,000, but I will gladly do that. Now, of course, into this situation, this is leading into something that I want to see the future of, okay? Obviously, the tides are shifting. We're going from all these companies that are shutting down virtual machine gamers for anti-cheat reasons, while at the same time, NVIDIA is supporting us, okay? The actual hardware companies are okay with it. Microsoft, as far as I know, is okay with it. They haven't even screwed up Hyper-V on Linux. So everything seems to be fine. Now, the reason why this technology interests me as much as it does is this is sort of like the last thing, the holy grail for a completely secure system. See, if we were to actually get this going, this would be the final piece in the coffin. What you could imagine is, let's say you have a game like Rainbow Six Siege, which is a highly competitive game, lots of hackers. There may be one point with this technology that becomes so commonplace, that becomes so standardized, that instead of letting us download the game, Ubisoft could just simply release a container to us, like a container file that contains a virtual machine and their game. And they could say, you know what, fire this up, and they could have it in such a way, again, I'm paraphrasing a lot of this, I'm giving you a very layman's explanation, but they could give us a virtual machine, a container file for the game, the whole game, like a 70 gigabyte download, and they could say, listen, we're not going to allow you to modify the files within this game, all right? It's going to spin up a virtual machine. You can't look into our game because we're going to encrypt everything, memory and all included, but we can't look out into your computer and personal files. So everyone gets their cake and eats it too. What it would do is it would allocate a certain amount of your CPUs. It would allocate a certain amount of your GPU using this virtual GPU technology, again, if it ever gets standardized, which it probably won't, and I'll get to it. And you could basically have a system that is almost unhackable, a system that is constantly run by a multitude of checks that would be incredibly difficult to bypass, right? In theory. Of course, hackers will evolve with due time, but this would be a nice stopgap. Now, the reason it's never going to happen is because this is NVIDIA's business, okay? If you don't know, NVIDIA makes a lot of money selling their graphic cards to like high-end data centers and servers around the world. And those servers utilize this technology amongst many other technologies. It's not that the graphic cards they sell are so inherently different. I think one of the best videos that I can link to you is Craft Computing. Craft Computing is an amazing YouTuber, incredibly underrated. He reviews beer and Linux. What more do you want, okay? Titties as well? Basically, Craft Computing made a video where he took a NVIDIA, I think it was a Tesla or a Grid card, one of their data center cards, and did exactly what I'm telling you. The results, a little bit mixed, but again, it was a janky setup to begin with. It would be a very interesting video for you to watch if you're interested at all in virtual machine technology and the future of hopefully what I want graphic cards to do. Now, that being said, okay, the reason it's never really going to happen, or very unlikely, is that NVIDIA makes a lot of money by segmenting the market this way. And while that is the case, given that this GitHub has come out and this technology, if it works, and again, I have yet to really sink my teeth into it, but if it works the way that it does, this might be an interesting stopgap, or at least a very, very, very good feature, a hidden feature for like all the enthusiast graphic card people out there when they're setting up their virtual machines. We're at the last bit of what I think we need to truly be a secure system. Ladies and gentlemen, this is all I really wanted to add to it. NVIDIA, while they did the bare minimum, it's ultimately a good sign. Don't think that I'm ragging on Nvidia. I'm glad that they did what they did by allowing us virtual machine users to use their graphic cards. But now we really need to unlock the true hidden potential on these cards and really give the true bang for our buck. Ladies and gentlemen, this is all what I wanted to say. If you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike it. If you dislike it, I am out.